Okay, we're going to sit for an hour and I'll lead a guided meditation. If you don't feel like being guided, then just ignore what I'm saying and do your own meditation. Just pretend that I'm the sound of the birds or a truck backing up or something. But if you want to follow the guidance, great. And usually kind of goes in a staged sequence of greater difficulty, not always, but often. And so if you get to, it's like going good and you're really into it and you feel like you're getting traction and you like how it's going, and then suddenly I go off into something and you don't want to go there, then just stay where you were at. Just keep going with that. So feel free to either totally ignore it or go up to like a certain level and then ignore the rest. Ian, can you shut that curtain? Because staring at myself in a mirror is not what I want to do tonight. Thank you. Much appreciated. So let's begin. Very often it's there's like an aphorism that says, I was just talking in a class about this aphorism. It says, sometimes the preliminaries are more profound than the main practice. Sometimes the preliminary practices are actually way more profound than the main practice. That's a really good aphorism. So tonight we're going to do what I consider to be kind of preliminary, and yet we're going to go real deep with it. So let's begin, as usual, by settling in to our posture. I haven't talked about posture in a while, but the idea is whether you're in a chair or on a cushion, to sit up straight. Make sure your back is, to the best of your ability, not slouched. It's the whole point of sitting on this pillow you're sitting on, if you're on the floor, is that you sit in such a way that your hips are rotated forward, and that'll make your spine go up straight. So just try it for a minute. If you rotate your hips back, you'll slouch, right? You can't help it. The hips go back, you slouch. You rotate the hips forward, your spine will go straight without you doing anything to it. So the whole point of that pillow is to get your spine to be nice and upright in an effortless way. So get yourself on your cushion in such a manner that your spine is nice and upright without you having to be rigid or feel like you're in the military or something. This is relaxed uprightness. And so that sense of being stable and relaxed and yet upright kind of describes the mood or the mode that we're in when we meditate. We are both relaxed and also alert, relaxed and upright, with a sense of stability. So just tune into that very pleasant sense in your body of relaxed, upright stability. It's not tense, it's not tight. And then, as usual, we'll just check in with how we're doing, how we're feeling, how's your body feel? How's your emotional world? How's your mind doing? And just give yourself like a total X-ray. Here's what it's like to be me right now. It's a snapshot of what's going on. And however it is, this is the important part, however it is, just let it be that way without trying to interfere with it. That turns out to be, for most of us, a rather challenging task. to not get involved in trying to change it or control it or improve it or somehow get in there and make it something different than it is. But at least for the duration of this meditation, that's what I'd like you to attempt, is to just let it be the way it is. And so why is that challenging? There's a whole bunch of reasons, but one might be that maybe it doesn't feel that good to be you right now. Uncomfortable in some way, emotionally or physically or mentally. And so we naturally want to get away from that, right? We have a natural urge to move away from that. But for the duration of the meditation, we're going to do the opposite. Rather than move away from it, we're just going to be with it. And let it be just the way it is, even if it's quite unpleasant. If it's pleasant, of course, we have the opposite problem where we either want to make it stronger or somehow grab onto it and keep it from going away. We get kind of grippy and desperate around it. Finally, something feels good and we want to hang on. And so in the same way, we're just going to notice that. Let it be there, let it be that way, and not, to the best of our ability, not get involved in trying to change it. So if you just do that for the next hour, that's already a powerful meditation. Just let yourself be the way you actually are. The main things we do instead are either try to change it or try to distract from it. When you're sitting in a meditation hall, the main distraction is just getting involved in thinking. So the next part is, to the best of your ability, don't get involved in the thinking about it. The thoughts will continue. You're allowed to have as many thoughts as are happening. There's no agenda to control thinking, to stop it, to change it, or anything like that. What you can do, though, is not engage. And if you notice you're engaging with it, then just disengage. Again, don't stop it, don't change it, don't control it. Just engagement with thinking is a kind of grabbing sensation. You kind of grab onto it and focus on it and hang on to it. And here all you do when you notice you're doing that is just relax that gripping and come back to just experiencing what you're experiencing. Now, so far I haven't given you any particular focus object, except to just notice what it's like to be you and to not change it. And if you want, that's enough. Just sit and be with this experience. If you're used to connecting with very wide open awareness, then feel free to rest in that in this experience. But even if you're not used to doing that, I recommend just noticing that when you're not focusing on thought, when you're not drilling down and hanging on to the thinking, but just letting it happen in the background and not on purpose sticking with it, then because your attention is not narrowly focused on the thinking, it will generally relax into to openness. So if you can, just allow your attention to relax entirely so that you're not particularly focusing on anything. It's just wide open, wide awake, clear, bright awakeness. That's sort of global. You don't have to do that. You're not trying to force it to be global. It's just when you stop focusing down hard on things and relax, global awareness is what's there. What do I mean by global awareness? You can feel your body without trying. You can hear in all the directions. You could, if someone made a sound behind you, you would hear it. If your eyes are open, you can, see the whole visual field because you're not narrowing down. So you're just letting it be wide open, which is a kind of relaxation, not a kind of doing. And from this place of just wide openness, unengaged with thought, let's first relax a little more. So to whatever extent, just by wanting to, not stretching, not fighting, not trying to unknot things or anything like that. That's all much more aggressive than what we're trying to do here. But simply by just kind of wanting to let go, see how much tension you can just voluntarily shed by just letting go. Again, not by stretching, not by trying to change stuff, but just simply by relaxing, by releasing, by wanting to let go of any tension you can just voluntarily release. And you may notice that that's quite a bit. If you're holding your face in any particular way, any particular mask, any particular expression, just let that go. Let your face just be loose. And if you notice any voluntary tension in your arms and hands, like you're ready to do something with your hands, just let go of that. You're not going to need to do anything with your hands for the next hour. And sometimes we have a habit of sitting in a pretty defended way with our belly very tight. And so if it's available and you can just relax your belly without any big effort, just let your belly be relaxed. And then just notice how that feels to settle in a little more deeply into openness, a little more deeply into release or letting go or relaxation. Again, to the best of your ability, remaining unengaged with thought, but simply being present. Now, what I'd like you to do is, while allowing awareness to remain wide open, simply feel your body. You can feel the breathing occurring, but you can feel everything else about your body too. Your butt on the cushion or the chair, the feeling of the air on your skin, maybe some aches and pains here and there, maybe some PT or energy type feelings here or there, or whatever else. But without engaging in thought and without narrowly focusing, just feel your body in the simplest possible way. And let's do that together for a while. And so the invitation here is to stay in your body. That's it. Just stay in your body. And don't go off into thought. We're not trying to get any particular body sensation or to make anything happen in our body. You're just feeling it, just the way it is. And each time you notice that you've run off into a thought, you've grabbed on and you're lost in thought, be glad that you noticed it and simply come back to being aware of the body. Stay present, simply present, feeling the body in a very open way. I remember as a teenager reading books on astral projection, how to disconnect your soul from your body and travel around various realms outside of your body. I thought that was pretty interesting. But here we're doing the opposite of astral projecting. Stay in your body. Turns out that when we get caught up in thinking, it's sort of analogous to astral projection. We're shooting out of our body into other times and places, thinking about the past or the future, thinking about all kinds of different stuff. And it's like we've left presence. So here, simply come back to presence again and again. Don't astral project. Inhabit the body. Simply stay present in your body, unengaged with any thought. Notice that that might not be all that easy to do. Often we keep bouncing into thought. Not always, but often. I wonder why that is. Is there something in the body we don't want to feel? If we remain unengaged with thought long enough, do certain feelings come up? Are we just in the habit of continuously engaging with thought? There can be lots of reasons. And right now, it's not about figuring them out, but you might feel the answer might be kind of obvious just in the body sensations you're feeling. When I sit and don't engage with thinking, I have to be present for something uncomfortable. And it turns out being able to sit with uncomfortable things is a real gift. It really changes our lives if we can do that. So we're not trying to change anything about our experience except the willingness to sit with our experience and just let it be and stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. Don't get in any kind of fight with your thinking. Just relax, let it go. If it comes back again and again and again, just relax again and again and again so that you're coming back to just being present, unengaged with the thoughts. Now expand the scope of the meditation from simply feeling your body to feeling your body and your emotions. If you're not particularly noticing any emotions, that's fine. Just be open to feeling whatever ones are there. If, on the other hand, you're having bigger emotions or maybe kind of unpleasant ones, or even pleasant ones, that's part of what we're sitting in the presence with, sitting and being present with. Notice that when we disengage from the thought content, then we can't grind on the emotions in the sense of, why is it there? What do I do about it? What, who did what? Any of that. We're letting that all aside and simply feeling what we're feeling. No interpretation at all, just here's how the body feels, here's how the emotions feel. And it may be the case that for many of us, our whole life is about distracting from whatever you're feeling right now. So this can be quite challenging. But it is worth doing. It's not just an exercise in feeling uncomfortable. After you do this for a while, you notice that that thing that is so used to grabbing on tight to every thought starts to get real relaxed. It doesn't automatically grab onto the thoughts, and so they just start kind of pouring by without engagement. And that sort of unfixated flow is very nice. And the core of your mind, which previously was so tight, just starts to naturally, gradually loosen and open. And become fluid rather than crystalline. Coming back to again and again to simple presence in the body, simple presence with emotions. Letting all that thinking just do whatever it's doing without us engaging at all. Good. Now let's expand the scope of the meditation to include the sounds of the world around you. So not only body sensations and emotions, but regular sounds. The sound of the ventilator, sound of my voice, sound of stuff going on outside, sound of whatever else you hear. Include that so that our presence is even wider, even more grounded in experience right now. Remaining uninvolved in thought. Stay wide awake, stay present. That's it. If you catch yourself astral projecting, just be glad that you caught yourself and come back into being here right now, simple presence, feeling your body, experiencing emotions, hearing the sound of the room and world around you. Good. Now, if your eyes are open, which is how I recommend you meditate, but you don't have to. But if your eyes are open, allow the visual field to be part of what you're present with now, together with body sensations, emotions, sounds. Just notice colors, shapes, light, dark, texture, and so on. Be present in the visual field. Not really looking at anything in particular, but not ignoring sight either. Simple presence here and now. Not engaging with thoughts. Good. Now, this is a tricky one, so don't feel you have to do this. But be present with the thinking without engaging with it. So instead of totally setting it aside, Allow even the thinking to be part of what we're present with, without engaging, but present with it. That's a little harder. Good. Now, lastly, this is either the easiest of all or the hardest of all. With all that, being present with all that, now just be present with the presence itself. Aware of the awakeness that is aware of all of this. That's not something you can really point to. But each of these things we've been present with, our body sensations, our emotions, the sounds and sights of the room around us, even the flow of thought activity, all of that is things we're aware of. And so there's awareness there too. And so be present with that awareness, or we could say be present with the awakeness to presence itself. What even is this awakeness? Without engaging thought of any kind, just look at it. What is this awakeness? Without engaging thought at all. Is any part of experience somehow separate from this awakeness? Without engaging any thoughts, look into where does this awakeness come from? Can you feel its source, or its beginning, or its center? Can you simply sit, being present, without changing anything? Okay, very good. Let's end the meditation there. So sometimes the preliminary practices are harder than the main practices, or more profound than the main practice. Sometimes the preliminaries are the good part. Sometimes stretching before running turns out to be like the part you really need today. Or warming up your voice before singing becomes the whole thing. I just feel like warming up my voice. That seems to be where the juice is. And so sometimes just sitting and being present without engaging thought, which for a lot of traditions is a preliminary practice, or if it's not a preliminary, it's at least an early practice, can be the whole practice. Can you just simply be present? And the answer is, even if you're going off to thought again and again, you're being present, right? You're coming back, you're coming back, coming back, coming back, coming back. Just returning to being present and interrupting the almost continuous desire to be somewhere else, continuous desire to change everything, continuous desire to be lost in some kind of distraction. And it turns out that this isn't some kind of like, it doesn't have to be just a preliminary concentration thing. Like we're just trying to be concentrated so that then you can do some other practice, like Vipassana. Yep, you want to get your mind stable doing this so that then you can do something important with it, like Vipassana. Although, again, in sort of the step-by-step way, that is how we might talk about it. This is just step one, get things kind of stable. But actually, for lots of traditions, this is the only step. And not because they're lesser traditions, but because sitting here, just being simply present, unfixated in the thinking mind is so powerful. And you might think, why is being, bored with my ass hurting powerful? Like, that's just, like, hey, hi. That's weird. Why would I do that? Right? Why would I sit being bored with my butt hurting for the rest of my life as my meditation practice? And it's not actually about getting concentrated. Notice we didn't really do anything called getting concentrated there. There was no like admonition to stay concentrated in some way. In fact, I kept saying, allow awareness to be wider, allow it to be wider, allow it to be wider, wider, wider. So it's not about becoming more concentrated. It's about not trying to escape or get rid of your experience or somehow distract from how you're actually feeling. And for most of us, that's what most of our mind is doing most of the time, even though we might call it, give it a different name. But really, it's like, I'm not comfortable with where I am right now in one way or another. So I'm going to go astral project or time travel or whatever into a dream, into a fantasy, into something else. Maybe anything else but what I'm experiencing right now. And you'll notice that this is a kind of, do I need to be concerned here? Okay. That for most of us, this can take the form that I would actually call almost addiction. And I don't mean addiction in the sense of like, oh, you go back to it again and again, because who cares? So you go back to something again and again, but rather addiction in the sense of like, you keep going back to a thing again and again, and it's actually detrimental to your life to do that. It's having a negative effect over time, right? And so whatever it is, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to go drink. I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to go doom scroll. I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to do bungee jumping. I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to do a crossword puzzle. Whatever it is, it in and of itself may not be like a substance that's causing physical damage or something, but weirdly, it's still problematic because we're trying to get away from our experience and trying to get away from how we're feeling and trying to get away from what's actually going on. And so in a way, we're astral projecting, or we're ostriches with our head in the sand, or whatever image you want for escaping your actual situation. And it turns out that over time, that's a strong word to use, but over time, that's damaging because you're just checking out and checking out and checking out and checking out. And you get good at checking out. And so relationships suffer when we check out from them. Our work suffers when we check out from it. Our environment suffers when we're disengaged from it. And in general, our life becomes a not life when we're checked out from it all the time. Right? That's the Walking Dead, right? That's the undead. You're animate and doing things, but you're completely checked out. So it's not too much to say that it's detrimental, especially over years and then more years. It's got compounding interest of damage from disengagement. Eventually, we can get extremely good at being totally not present all the time. Extremely good at not really being with the people we're being with or engaged in the whatever's going on where we're actually at. Because there's stuff about it we don't like, or stuff about it that's challenging, or stuff about it that's difficult, and we just rather check out. And so you get weaker doing that. You get your sort of muscle for engagement atrophies, and you get better and better at hiding. And you know what it's like for someone who hides a lot. You get good at hiding, you want to hide more. And then even little bits of exposure are terrifying and you want to hide even more. And so there's a strong feedback loop there where we just get better and better and better at disengagement. And, you know, we live now in not even a society, but a world that has, levels of possible disengagement that are beyond anything anyone ever imagined. We've got, 24/7 total disengagement available so that you can just live an entire life from birth to death, never having actually done anything or been present for any part of it. Again, that's a not life. That's some kind of living deadness, right? It's just a kind of total numbness that retracts from all engagement. And so, what we just did is the antidote for that particular issue. And it's hard because there's a lot of backlog of material to engage with. There's a backlog of emotions that are going to be present. There's a backlog of body sensations that are going to arise. There's a backlog of just all the kinds of really intense, powerful, very sticky, super interesting, either in a positive way or in a negative way, thoughts that are going to come bubbling up after a while because we've been not engaging with any of that for so long that there's a buffer to clear. So it's challenging and scary a lot of the time. But it's also, the necessary prerequisite for being able to feel good. or being able to be present for something really beautiful that's actually happening, or being able to, like, something simple, feel your own body. I work with lots of meditators. A lot of them cannot feel their own body when they start. I mean, in the simplest way, sure, a cut or something, they're going to feel it, but to actually feel their body, it's really hard at first because we're just so used to not doing it. And so it's like, I think of it as like a floaty ring, that used to rescue someone in the water. It's like, here you go. You're drowning in not life. And by simply letting go of engagement with this kind of like total distraction and coming into being present with whatever's going on right now, no matter how it is almost like a lifesaver. Brings us back into life, brings us back into presence, brings us back into relationship and engagement, and brings us back into our senses and brings us back into existence. Instead of this sort of zombie-like non-existence that is so prevalent. So yeah, it's hard, and yet, in my opinion, very worth doing, like crucial to do. Because eventually you're actually dead. And between now and then, there's an opportunity to actually be alive and actually engage and actually be present. Or just kind of live as sort of a hungry ghost floating in, like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Where they drink the booze and it just falls through their ribs and they eat the most delicious food and it falls out. They can't enjoy anything because they're fucking dead pirate ghosts, but like fucking dead pirate ghosts, you can't enjoy anything or actually taste anything or feel anything or engage with anything, right? Because that would take being present. And after a while, being present, if you're distracted enough, hurts. It's like the Princess and the Pea factor gets very, very, very big. So again, this is a preliminary practice, and yet it is, in a way, much harder than some of the big, super difficult, hyper non-dual, practices way down the road. So good. So if anyone has any questions, raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you. Or if it doesn't have to be questions, it can just be stuff on your mind, things you want to say or report. And I'll just remind you that this microphone is broadcasting live to the internet. So I see some hands up there, Eric.
Hey, so we've talked about the concentration practices versus what you've been doing here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sorry.
I didn't know we were doing a concentration practice.
I've mentioned you and I have talked about how psychosis can be one side effect of the super intense, like jhanic concentration stuff. And you told me what we do here can't do that, but it can have other side effects. I'm curious what those are.
It'd be easy to. Do you mean what we do here in general or what we did tonight? Because, there's a lot of different stuff we do here.
I guess whatever you meant when you said that to me, but if this applies broad attention things.
Sure. It's much harder for it to have any negative effect, that's for sure. But I'm curious, why focus on that? What's your interest there?
I just want to know everything.
Yeah. So let's focus on how it can be bad. Okay. That's fair.
No, I think it's a wonderful practice.
Sure. No, but yeah. I would say you can, of course, there's always the bypassing capacity. So you can use these sorts of practices, especially as we go further on down, to kind of get around feeling stuff, even though what we did tonight is the opposite of bypassing, right? It's feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. But again, because we're not engaging with the thinking part, at least for some of it, that's a way that could be used to sort of cut out that part of experience, which is why later on down, as people get good with not engaging, then we bring that back in. It's just harder to do. Let the thoughts arise so that you're aware of them, but not engaging, so that we're not even bypassing that, right? So there's antidotes built in. But another one would be that if you do this a lot, it's, very relaxing to the kind of anxious, tense core of the personality. But if someone already has an issue keeping the anxious, tense core of their personality together at all, that, you don't want to practice more at letting it fall apart.
Thanks.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Thanks for your question.
Thanks, Michael. At some point, I found energy was pooling, like it wanted to move some part of my body. And naturally, I would resist that, which is getting engaged. So when I disengaged, the movement would happen, usually in my face, which I was like, that's not bothering anyone. But at
You were
some
making
point,
some funny faces.
I was like, only Michael's going to check this out. I'm like, whatever, it's better than getting involved. So I'll just let that do whatever it's doing. But the one that was harder was wanted to just slump. And I didn't know how to get myself back up without going in there with the mental hand and grabbing myself and getting myself back up, which I did. And then I stayed. But I wonder if there's a better way to do that.
Was the cause of the slumping just relaxation, or what, were you kind of involuntarily being moved into a slump?
Being moved into a slump.
Yeah, so you're having some energy stuff go on. And if you're on your own, you could just slump. Or let your face be weird or whatever. In a room full of people, sometimes the energy stuff will get kind of big and kind of kinetic, and so we sort of have to make concessions to the group and not do that.
In this case, it felt more like I'm trying to maintain a posture just for the sake of, the aim is to sit upright.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
But I didn't know a way to achieve that goal other than by engaging.
Right. And that's why I'm saying, especially on your own, if it moves you forward like that, just go with it.
Maybe
and
just
don't
go
worry
with
about
it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. But don't get involved in oh, now it's moving me in this other cool way. What's that mean? Or anything like that. Just, okay, the energy's doing some stuff. Kind of like, so what?
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Michael. You described this process as reducing the princess and the pod.
P.
The P, yeah, like less sensitivity or engagement with it in a sense.
Yeah, when you get sensitive to stuff in a negative way, then it's real easy to get more sensitive to it and even more, till eventually you can't bear anything.
Yeah, so there's that process, and I imagine meditation or these practices can also reduce some kind of desensitization or dissociation.
Sure.
Which would increase this kind of sensitivity to like uncomfortable sensations.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing with a lot of mindfulness teaching, is that they will, certain teachers will teach you to have a lot of sensitivity to your experience, but not how to have equanimity with the sensitivity. And so that can go in a bad direction, right? Because you're getting more and more sensitive without any way to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think that's what you're pointing to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really important to either, have this sense if we're doing mindfulness style meditation, to really make sure that our equanimity keeps matching pace with our clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So that as you get a little more sensitive, you work on the equanimity with that sensitivity before you work on getting more sensitive. Right? So that if we only have one wing of the practice, just the concentration or just the clarity and sensitivity without the equanimity, it definitely goes in a bad direction. Like definitely. And so in this way of working, just having that spaciousness that I keep bringing back into it, the openness, that is its own kind of, I'll call it equanimity sink. There's so much room in all that space for stuff to arise that it really helps mitigate the too muchness of stuff.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
A newbie question.
Good.
I thought I heard you say it's better to practice with eyes open.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult. Does it get better afterwards, or is it something that is a good practice to begin with?
It just depends. Thank you, Emily. It just depends. In the long run, we're not trying to go into an altered state. Closing your eyes is a big help for going into an altered state. And so keeping your eyes open is really helpful for not going into an altered state. And so if you do just a little of it, you'll end up getting used to it. But there's kind of a way to make it easier, which is instead of, like, if I'm meditating, I'll have my eyes open like this. But you can do it where your eyes are open, but you're looking at the ground so that they're still open, there's still light coming in, but you're not kind of seeing the whole, you're just like that. Okay, so you can even have them like half lidded and looking at the carpet or looking at the wood floor or whatever, and that makes it a lot easier. It's much less distracting. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hey, Michael, related to your last two answers, with my eyes closed, I had like this strange ability of being in my body, the way you guided it, to like observe the arising of the visuals. I could see them coming and I could feel when they were coming. It was almost like a Shiva Shakti type thing. When it got so still, there would be this like whoosh of visuals, and it was so pleasant and anchoring. I don't know if I'd say an altered state, but kind of. But
Sure doesn't sound like one.
It was peaceful.
Yeah.
Can I keep doing that?
So you're experiencing unfixated visual thought, right? Just sure. I mean, but you can do it the same damn thing with your eyes open.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Eric, let's bring it up front here. We've got a couple questions that have been raised for a while.
I have a question about, I guess, for this specific meditation, so bringing presence to all these different dimensions. One general question was, it seemed like we're supposed to sort of add.
It was additive, yeah.
Yeah. In principle, can you sort of hold the doors open fully for every sense door? I cannot close them, but it does feel like there's this natural sort of push and pull of salience.
Sure, just to the best of your ability, just relax that. It still will move around, but you're not trying to grab onto anything.
Mhm.
So
And then
it starts to just be more generally open.
and then in particular for the being present to the visual field without like attending to details, I found that very challenging. Like, are you looking for textures, or is it sort of just like the whole visual field
That
at
one.
once? Yeah.
At least at first. Eventually, you can engage a little more, but it's not like,
Yeah.
which is what you would do if you're trying to just stay present with the visual field in sort of a mindfulness way. You kind of go into that thing and go into that thing and go into that thing, and it keeps you engaged. Here, you're just simply seeing.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for the meditation. It was my first time. It was really good.
Thanks for meditating.
Yeah. So you said something about like sensitivity without equanimity, and I think this meditation when we
You
start-
nodded a lot when I said that. So.
Oh yeah, because it was like really, it was like a lot for me, and then I was even worried, like, am I going to make it? Like throughout the meditation, and I'm glad I did, because eventually it like faded out. So I wonder if you have like how, like, is there a specific practice for equanimity?
There's a lot of them, but the main thing is practicing. One is the non-engagement with thought, because the thought is a big part of making stuff overwhelming. And the other one is, like I was saying, the spaciousness, because awareness is so spacious that it's really hard for things to get overwhelming with that much room.
Yeah, I think for me, actually, there was like not so much thought, it was like a lot of energetic.
Yeah, that's right. When we're not in the thinking mind, you'll feel a lot of energy sometimes.
Yeah, and like my heart was like really beating. And actually, like when I tried to relax into the spaciousness, like the space just felt really loud.
Mhm.
And that's what, like, energetically, and that's what made it like, so that didn't quite work for me.
Yeah. So under those conditions, I would just say, come back to stuff like presence with breathing, presence with the stillness around, and things like that are a little soothing.
Yeah.
Because, we don't want the energy to go away. That's called being alive, right? Like, whoa, if there's really that much life happening, that's really good. And so over time, you want to just get to the place where that's easy to tolerate. And so there's a thing of just sitting with it. Okay. And so notice if you run from it, then you're going to start getting more and more, any energy, I'm afraid of that. You know, so what you want to do is find ways to kind of like ways that it feels pleasant, ways that there's soothing available, ways that there's stillness there also. Notice that with all that energy, there's still a core of total stillness, things like that.
Yeah, thanks. The breathing really helped. I also have another question. Eyes opened, I think this was the first time I would get like also weird visual effects.
Yeah, so usually those are just from staring.
Uh-huh.
So because the cells of your retina get, like need to be recharged. And so just move your eyes a little bit.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep. So let's end that there for now. Thanks for all your reports and questions.